platoon commander. I think he was platoon commander of 5 platoon. I saw him propped up against a tree with his shoulder was blown away. Our forward scout got shot through the neck and he was killed. And the section commander said, he said, right, he said, Finch, you take the first, you go in front as a scout. I said, you know, and that was when I thought, this is it, you know, this is the day Brian Finch dies. And I just started to push my way through, and I couldn't have cared, you know, because I was dead and I was just waiting for the physical thing to happen. And it just reached a point where I tripped. I remember I tripped over something and I fell down, and that was when I just burst into tears and I just couldn't stop crying. And I ended up curled up in a little ball. I was taken on board the helicopter, and as it flew off, I threw up everywhere. I couldn't stop throwing up. And then I came close, I think, to having like a cardiac arrest, because the next thing I knew, here's this bloke banging on my chest, you know. My heart had just, you know, sort of seized up.
While Brian had his breakdown on the battlefield, most victims of shell shock suppress the symptoms, bottling them up till years later. Either way, the long-term effects on family life are shattering.
With my 2 youngest, they just used to panic because I used to drink myself into total oblivion. But Mark was always the one that would pick me up when I was laying on the garden. He was always the one that would put me into bed. He was always the one that would, you know, he'd clean the vomit off the fly screen door.
30 years after the war, Brian made a return journey to Vietnam with his son Mark and a home video camera.
There's the straw, and there's the coconut, and the lovely girl is going to sell it to me. You know, I saw a totally different Vietnam to what I saw when I first went. 30 years ago, I would have been absolutely terrified to have entered a place like this. Now, I'm on my own, and I'm having a fantastic time. I've had this weight on my chest of, you know, like it is like when you get depression, it's a dreadful thing, and it's just like this great black monster is on your chest and it won't move. But going back is it's taken away I think the fear that Vietnam held for me.
The average age of the private soldier in Vietnam was 19. As you watch these old home movies, you can see a confidence in their faces. Death and injury seem far away. What these soldiers didn't know was that not all scars are physical, that the experience of combat can leave another sort of wound. This film follows Brian as he takes 3 other battle fatigue victims back to Vietnam to confront their demons.
We didn't know. We didn't know you could be sitting in a bar and suddenly someone will throw a hand grenade in. Yeah.
It could be a child even, couldn't it?
Why do you think I sit in restaurants against walls and watch the door? As you said, 30 years later. I do, because I never get out of that habit.
The first 2 or 3 months I thought, this is a lunatic I'm going out with. We'd walk in and he said, I don't want to sit here. And I say, why? It's only table left. I can't sit here.
on search and destroy missions, and that was our role. Search and destroy. In other words, you go out there to kill people. You patrol to kill. Killed 2 people in the first night. And then 2 days later, 2 of our guys got killed. And it upset me a lot. And we sat down and said, shit. We'll all be dead in a couple of months if this keeps up. Yeah.
I did a silly thing last year. I just had had enough. So I took an overdose of drugs and ended up in North Shore for a few days. But Pauline actually saved my life and got me there in time.
It was only that Christmas that I sat in the garage and I chewed on the end of the barrel again in the garage. And I think it was the kids realised that I was in there in the dark, sitting in the dark, that Dolly turned around and took the rounds from me and hid the rounds.
The rounds?
The bullets.
He lives in the garage a lot. You know, that's his, we call it his cubby house now, because he's in, you know, he's got his jug and his cups and his this and his that. Everything's out there where he doesn't have to come in if he doesn't want to, except to sleep. The vet's like this seclusion thing. I find it very hard to understand, really, why they're like this. Why they're still living then, which is what they are all doing. They're all reliving their Vietnam experience.
Yeah, well, flashbacks you can't control. Sometimes intrusive thoughts you can't control. And nightmares you can't control. My home is the perimeter, and I don't like going outside that perimeter.
Peace, that's the thing I think more than anything else I feel is peacefulness. I have no nervousness or apprehension. The chaos, even the chaos is peaceful.
This is Paul, who was a journalist with the BC.
He turned out he was a cameraman with the North Vietnamese Army. I speak absolutely no Vietnamese, but we got on tremendously well. He took me way out into the hills at the back of Nha Trang.
We're in the middle, I don't know where we are, but we're having a good time. I wouldn't have a clue where I am. Stopped at a friend of Mr. Foo's.
And I met 2 of his VC mates. They were 2 fellas that lived alone, way out in the back of the hills. They bred snakes, and they drank a lot. But they didn't like company of anybody else except veterans. These 2 fellas were guerrilla fighters, but we spent the day together, and it was one of the best days I've ever had, I think. It was absolutely incredible to meet them and to find that they were suffering the same as what I do, the same as what I am.
Some veterans go to extremes to isolate themselves from the community. After Sam quit the US Army, he buried himself in outback Australia.
I get very afraid being around people, full stop. Basically, I've been in the area for 16 years and I don't have any friends in the area. Oh, jingle bells, rocket shells, napalm's on the way.
Oh, what fun it is to call an airstrike in today. Hey! And Diana, you don't like him singing that, do you?
No.
Why not?
Oh, really? Really, I don't like war. I don't like anything about it at all.
But Harry's just singing in a very innocent kind of way. He doesn't understand the implications of it.
I do.
There you go.
Yeah. What are the implications of it?
It's about war.
Yeah, what does it mean?
People get killed.
You think it's funny that the people got killed?
Well, the song's a bit funny.
The song's funny, but yes, but not the...
Not the meaning.
No, not the meaning. But the song is.
He would drink himself into this sort of jelly mess. He'd end up in this jelly mess on the floor, and out from this state would bubble these stories of some horror from the war, you know, and they were dreadful. I'd wonder how anyone really could live with a memory like this, and you know, a month or so down the track there'd be another one, and then there'd be another one, and there was just this succession of just hideous, you know, nightmarish experiences that he obviously was, you know, putting a lot of energy into keeping under the surface, you know.
After Brian's return trip to Vietnam, he was keen to meet other veterans who, like him, had been clinically diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
But there's, just behind where we live, there's a World War II digger who hasn't come out of the bush since 1945. Yes, 2 semi-trailers in a year, taking out stock and bringing in supplies. And if you go up to visiting, you don't answer the door.
I remember things like that when I was a kid, you know, like everybody had an Uncle Bill or someone who lived down the bottom, you know, don't go near him, you know, it was crazy, you know what I mean? But it turns out it was post-traumatic stress.
I didn't know what it was until not that long ago.
Yeah. Well, how did it come about that you finally realised that something was wrong?
I don't know, the fact that I was just going downhill quickly and didn't have a future. I'd had 3 marriages.
What do you think about going back? What would you think about going back over there? If you had the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm in two minds on this. I've always said, from the time I come home from Neam, I suppose right to this very day sitting at the table, he'll never get me back to Neam ever again.
Would you be prepared to come to Vietnam? How about you, Wayne? Would you be prepared to come?
Yeah, I'd like to go as we talked about before, and bury a few ghosts, and more than a lot of them actually.
Sam, are you prepared to go?
Yeah.
Ned, how do you feel about it?
Well, as I said before, I still have mixed emotions, but I just fear that emotional-wise and that I'd actually crack, you know.
Anyhow, I went down to a mate's place and he was an anti-war protester, and we've come to terms over that in the years, because irregardless of politics, our music and the people we are hold us together. They had a visitor in their house. My God, you're a paratrooper, aren't you? And I said, yes, and you're a murderer. You're a hired assassin. That was the other day. That was just the other day.
I can't
As soon as I got
believe
into
these
Sydney.
people. But anybody who fought a war should be...
I know everybody wants me to go. Even my son turned around and said, you know, like, go. To me now, he said, Ryan, I'd just like to have my dad back the way he was.
Well, we all think, even Sean, as you know, we all think that Vietnam is the key.
It'll probably get worse. This is what I'm expecting anyway. You know, going back there, you know, you have to take that horrible medicine because it will make you better, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm not going this time in uniform carrying a weapon, am I? You know, that's one difference. And I'm not possibly, well, I'm not saying goodbye and not knowing, like, whether I'll come back again.
Socks and underpants. The runners.
No cans of baked beans or coffee or milk or anything like that? I fully intend to go native.
Are you getting more nervous before you about to go somewhere?
Well, I am now. So, I guess until now I've been so busy with different things that I haven't had a chance to stop and get worried about.
I've been feeling crook in the stomach, and I know it's only nerves. It's tomorrow, and I suppose in one way, within myself, I've been possibly not wanting tomorrow to come, in a way, you know.
The reason I think that we're like that on buses and trains and crowds is that we're just constantly alert. We feel as if we've got ever-present danger.
I know it, in my mind, when I get there, it'll be like when I first got there. The smell of a place, like the heat and the sing-song voices, and I know I'm surrounded by them and I can't get away from them. It's not, you know, that's just what I'm worried about, like when I lob there. They'd be yakking away all the time, you know, and of course you couldn't understand what the hell they were going on about. And they're talking about you like as a soldier. You didn't know whether or not they were saying, right, these idiots are going up the road now, and they don't know that it's mined. In the end, you were starting to learn there's something going on.
Ned's very apprehensive about going back because he just doesn't know how he'll be able to cope once he gets in a big crowd of Vietnamese people. And Brian has just been back and said he had a great time. Sam phoned me the other day about going back, and he's really looking forward to it. He feels the same about burying some ghosts. But if the four of us stick together, and if any problems happen, we'll be able to help each other out.
Oh, it's good to see you again.
Let me up. Oh, yeah. They're everywhere. I've ripped me thing to pieces.